Hi everyone, Religious Fanboy here again, and today we are doing the lesson video discussing the Christian lessons and themes in episode 6 of Erased, titled The Grim Reaper, and specifically talking about the themes and ideas of the importance of encouraging one another and giving each other hope in order to overcome struggles and hardships. The two main ways this is presented in this episode are in the actions that take place underneath the the overpass. Yeah, the overpass. Um, in the ways that Ari, after hearing the Grim Reaper monologue by Satoru, where he uses a parable, in this case a manga idea that he has, as a way of describing how he feels about himself and the guilt and shame he feels towards his mistakes and inability to save Kaio and the other two people that were kidnapped, as well as saving his mother and clearing his name and finding out who the killer is. And Ari reminds him of how much he has helped her, and she remind she brings up the situation with her dad and mom involving the divorce and the issues that we hear about in the backstory in the previous episode, and how this encourages Satoru, and he is reminded that even though he didn't save keep Kyle alive, he did manage to delay her kidnapping and death by a day, because she was the only one that had not turned 10, that was 9 when they had died. All the others were 10, but when they looked at the book again, it registered that she was 10 when she died, and that being another thing, along with what Ari says to him, being something that encourages him to get back up and strive to overcome these hardships, and makes him believe that they are capable of figuring out who the killer is, saving Kyle, Hiromi, and the other kidnapped victim. The text for today is in Corinthians in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9, where he said that we are afflicted in every way. I'm gonna start reading the text. This is the ESV translation. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. I chose this passage because it is a way of acknowledging our hardships while also cautiously holding on to the hope and faith in God that we still have and that is still present even in the world's darkest moments, while not denying the darkness. The scripture acknowledges that we are afflicted, but though no matter how hard the hardship is, we are not killed by it. And even though we feel like it is inevitable, even though we aren't killed by it, that it will kill us, we still can have the hope that God is with us. And it uses other terms such as perplexed, which in the commentaries that I used talked about how and translated and interpreted this to mean being restrained or cinched in, where it's not a crushing feeling. Not it isn't described or interpreted to be a sense of being in the process of being crushed, but a process of being nearly crushed. So it acknowledges that is we are restrained and being afflicted, but we don't have to give in to despair because we aren't being destroyed by it. Um, I also read in a commentary based on what we know about the chapter and these portions of books in the New Testament, these Second Corinthians would have been a letter commonly thought to have been written by the Apostle Paul. Specifically, in this case, the original audience would have been the people of Corinth or the members of a specific church in Corinth or the Christians in Corinth. In this passage, he is voicing sadness about his own rough circumstances at this point, being a significant way into his ministry. He has been persecuted by both civilians and by the Romans. And we, so in this two verses, we can assume that he is using this to encourage people and Christians in Corinth that are experiencing persecution, as well as this could be interpreted as a way of him talking about the deliverance we have by God in the context of his own hardships and tribulations he is facing. And we will see, like in the show, how in these past few episodes, Sotoro has been grieving and mourning both the losses of his friends, but also feeling the immense guilt of not only the original timeline where he hadn't been able to or hadn't done much to save the three kids, but now on top of that, the this past experience of him going back in time and being unable to save them, even though feeling like he had came so close. And from this conversation under the overpass is the last time he sees Ari before his second attempt to go, his second time going back in time to save them. And in the context of this series, this is the moment where he is able to at least temporarily overcome his guilt and is encouraged to get back up and do what he is meant to do, which is save the three kids that were kidnapped when he was a kid and save his mom and figure out who the killer is and bring him to justice. And with that being said, I pray and hope that you took away from this episode of Erase and this video and the passage of the scripture, whatever God intended for you to take away from it. Feel free to place any prayer requests or feedback in the comments. And with that being said, may God be with you and see you next time. Bye.